This video contains adult language and discussions of abuse, drugs, and self-harm. Viewer discretion is advised. Hi everyone, I'm Uncle Mark and welcome to another list of songs that never reached the top 40. Now, I am actually filming this on July 4th, and what better day than America's birthday to talk about the greatest form of American music. No, we're not talking about jazz. That'll have to be for a different video. Today, we are going to take on classic rock, or should I say, classic rock! And believe me when I say this is just the first list, as this genre has so many songs that not only never reached the top 40, some never hit Billboard's Hot 100. But for this list, I am going to go over 10 well-known and well-loved songs spanning from the early days of rock to the British invasion to prog rock and new wave to goth and grunge. This list will be in order of release, so no playing favorites here. But will your favorite be on this list? Let me know in the comments what songs I should include for a future list. I assure you, I have so many more in mind. Don't forget to click the like button if you enjoyed this video, ring the bell for future notifications, and please subscribe to my channel. So let's start by going all the way back to 2007. Why am I starting there? Well, even though the original song never hit the top 40, a sample from it was used in a song that became a top 5 hit for Fergie that year. And no, Little Richard never had a song that used the word Fergalicious.
She walks by, the men folks getting cold. Can't help it, the girl can't help it. If she winks an eye, the brass lights turn to told. Can't help it, the girl can't help it.
Now technically this song never even made the Hot 100, but that's because that chart didn't exist until 1958. Before that, Billboard's main chart was the Top 100. The song was written by Bobby Troup, who also wrote the classic Route 66, but was more known to me for playing Dr. Early on Emergency alongside his wife, singer-actress Julie London. The song was the theme from a movie starring Jane Mansfield, and Julie appeared as herself in the movie along with such early rock greats as Fats Domino, Eddie Cochran, and Little Richard. The movie is considered one of the first true rock and roll musicals. Richard gets to sing 3 songs in the movie, including Ready Teddy, which also missed hitting the top 40. He sings the theme here with the same rowdy intensity he gave to his earlier hits, Tutti Frutti and Long Tall Sally, and is full of banging piano and wailing sax that you'd expect to hear in one of his songs. Now, the lyrics' descriptions of how sexy this woman is can sound cartoony, but they're unforgettable.
If she winks an eye and the brass lights turn to told. Can't help it, the girl can't help it. She got a lot of what they call the mold. Can't help it, the girl can't help it.
Considering how influential the movie ended up being, it's surprising this song wasn't a bigger hit. Just how influential was this movie? Let's just say a 16-year-old from Liverpool decided to make rock and roll his life after seeing this movie. But we'll get to him shortly. In the meantime, let's get to our next song, which has been an anthem for youthful rebellion and defiance since it was released. I expect for the 2 remaining original members of this band who are no longer youths, there's a difference between aging and getting old.
People try to put us down.
The Who were part of the mod movement, joining other rock acts such as the Yardbirds and the Small Faces. With all their success, it's strange to think that they never had a #1 album and only one top 10 hit in the US. My Generation was their second song to reach the US charts. Their first hit, I Can't Explain, also never made the top 40 in the US, peaking at number 93. At the time My Generation was written, the mod movement were fighting with rockers who were still imitating Elvis wearing leather jackets as opposed to the mod's Carnaby Street fashions. There was less than a decade difference between the 2 styles, but mods considered rockers to be more establishment while they were more subversive, looking conservative outside but punk inside, more like Holden Caulfield instead of Jim Stark. The lyrics reflect the sullenness and dissatisfaction being felt by their peers, and the purposeful use of stuttering is meant to show frustration and bottled up anger. The lyrics were allegedly inspired by the Queen Mother having Pete Townshend's vehicle towed as she hated looking at it while on her daily drive through the Belgravia section of London. I don't know how true that might be, but I can only imagine the situation. And now, welcome to an episode of Bad British Accent Theatre. Hello, Scotland Yard. This is Queen Mum Liz. Could you be a dear and have this frightful hearse picked up? I could see it on my morning drive, and it is quite the eyesore. My chauffeur will give you the information on where you can tow it from. Thank you. Can I have your name? Thomas Barnaby. I'll put in a good word to my daughter to have you knighted. What? Queen Mum Liz had me pack and towed? That old biddy. She's trying to put me down just because I get around. Say, that would make a good lyric. This has been an episode of Bad British Accent Theatre. Yeah, I tend to doubt it, but it makes a fun story. No matter why the song was written, it will remain a classic. I hadn't had this song on my initial list, but when we lost one of the greats in rock history, I needed to include it. Rest in power, Tina.
When I was a little girl, I had a rag doll.
The story of River Deep Mountain High has been told many times, but usually regarding Phil Spector. The poor chart showing of this song in the US led him to walk away from the music industry for a few years, even though it was a bigger hit in Europe, reaching number 3 in the UK and number 1 in Spain, and was considered by critics and musicians to be one of his greatest songs. He considered his masterpiece a failure. Ike Turner claimed the reason for its unsuccessfulness was that it was too black for white stations and too white for black stations. If anyone other than Tina had recorded it, it would have been huge. Yeah, try to make her the scapegoat. That's not a pattern of abusive behavior, right? Plus, he's one to talk, as he wasn't even in the studio to record this, so his name shouldn't even be included on this song. And Phil also got some abusiveness in when he made Tina sing the song for hours to get the right sound until she was sweating and down to her bra in the studio. But Tina was the professional, and she gave them her all. The passion and power in this performance is what she would give audiences for years to come, both on record and stage. And the musicians backing her up were no slouches. As I mentioned, Ike wasn't there, but such greats as Darlene Love on backup vocals, Leon Russell on keyboard, Barney Kessel and Glenn Campbell on guitar helped ensure that this would be legendary. As it turns out, 3 covers of this song would peak higher. One by Deep Purple hitting number 53, one from the Supremes and the Four Tops hitting number 14, and one from the TV show Glee, sung by Amber Riley and Naya Rivera, which peaked at number 41. And if you want to watch my video of the top 10 best songs to peak at number 41, in my opinion, click on the above link. In the meantime, let's move on.
Yeah.
Remember when I mentioned a certain teenage Scouser? He and his buddies are here now, and if you had to sum up the psychedelic era into one song, I think this would be it.
I am he as you are me, and we are all together.
This was the B-side to their number 1 Hello Goodbye. John Lennon stated he wrote the song as a middle finger to the academic work being done on other Beatles songs, trying to interpret meanings when there may have been none. Also, he was high as fuck. The lyrics borrow from a variety of sources, including a Lewis Carroll poem, a gross playground nursery rhyme, and a mantra given by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. And the song samples from a radio production of King Lear that John recorded while in the studio. So there's no rhyme or reason for each verse, it all just feels like a sonic acid trip. Now, many critics gave the song positive reviews, noting its complexity. But Rex Reed, the original Tired Old Queen at the movies, shout out to Steve Hayes, hated the song, saying it lacked any cohesion or style or technique. and it was utterly silly and pointless.
I'm Alexander Armstrong, and welcome to Pointless.
Not now, Alexander. Well, the reasons he hated it are the reasons I love it. Similar to Dylan's Subterranean Homesick Blues and Beck's Loser, it's a stream of consciousness put to music. And personally, this ranks among my top 5 favorite Beatles songs ever, up there with A Day in the Life and Eleanor Rigby. And you shouldn't try to make sense of it. Just sit back and enjoy this Ticket to Ride. Stairway to Heaven is considered one of the greatest songs in rock history. At one point, it was the most requested song on FM stations ever. It consistently makes critics' lists of the best rock songs of all time. But it was never released as a single in the United States, so you're not going to see it on this list. This Led Zeppelin song is. Rock and Roll is on the same album as Stairway to Heaven, Led Zeppelin 4. It quickly became a fan favorite in concerts and was often featured as their encore song. Because of the speed of the song at 170 BPM, it's a true headbanger. John Bonham's pounding drums borrow from Little Richard's Keep a Knockin' and Don't Let Up. At times, I wonder how Jimmy Page manages to keep up with his guitar licks. When you look at the lyrics, though, it's another case of the right kind of cognitive dissonance for me, as the intense energy of the music is offset by the melancholy, almost wistful feelings of missing fun times and young love gone by and wishing for them to return. It's a song that wants to reminisce, but can't because times are speeding by too fast, and leaves our singer... I think the reason why this didn't hit the top 40 is a common one from back in those days. They were a real album band, and although they got their first release, Black Dog, onto the top 40, Stairway to Heaven's popularity made this one almost an afterthought for top 40 radio. It may be disappointing in terms of the charts, but not for anything else. Now, prog rock was still very popular during the first half of the 70s with acts such as Yes, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and early Genesis. For my choice here, though, I am going to choose an act that famously, or infamously, depending on your viewpoint, added an atypical musical instrument to their blues rock sound: the flute. In the shuffling madness. The original Jethro Tull was a British agriculturalist who lived in the 18th century, and because someone from their booking agency was a history buff and the band kept changing names in order to keep landing gigs, they eventually settled on that one. Their first big hit in the US was a re-release of their 1969 song Living in the Past, which was their first top 40 hit in 1972. Similarly, Locomotive Breath was originally released in 1971 as the first song off the album Aqualung, but it too was re-released, this time in 1976, where it would chart and peak at number 62. This is one of the band's most popular songs, and a very socially relevant one at that, with themes of overpopulation and capitalism likened to a runaway train. The song starts with some excellent bluesy piano work from John Evan, which goes on for about a minute and a half before getting into those chugging guitar riffs. Ian Anderson said he decided to take up the flute as he felt his guitar playing sounded like third-rate Eric Clapton, and it would make for an idiosyncratic sound. And it paid off. He may not be James Galway, but it gave his band uniqueness, and he manages to blend this woodwind seamlessly into the rock. The song is also notable for getting away with a mild vulgarity over the airwaves. And the all-time winner has got him by the balls. For a band that has sold over 60 million albums worldwide, you'd think they'd be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but at this taping, they still aren't. Come on, guys, get them in! Now we're getting into the 80s, and this is probably the one song on this list where most people would be surprised to find out that it never reached the top 40. Now, I remember when it was first released, hearing it on the radio all the time, and I'm sure it got plenty of airplay on MTV, but for whatever reason, it just couldn't get over the hump. The music borrows heavily from the early rock classic Little Latin Loopy-Loo, and you can absolutely hear it in the structure, although the chorus speeds up the tempo significantly.
She's a high-stepping baby, ain't no dance she wouldn't do. She's my groovy little baby, a little Latin Loopy-Loo.
It's always tease, tease, tease. You're happy when I'm on my knees.
Instead of Joe Strummer, Mick Jones is the lead singer for this song. Rumors at the time hinted that the lyrics were about his relationship with singer-actress Ellen Foley, and later about his split with The Clash, but he stated neither of those were true. The Spanish lyrics are just the English lyrics translated, although technically it's Ecuadorian Spanish, as the tape operator called his mother to translate it, and she was from Ecuador. This was their follow-up to Rock the Casbah, and although this song was similar to their first US hit, Train in Vain, by this time the Clash were so known for their political and social commentary, this didn't seem to fit in with their image. It would have a resurgence in 1991 when it would be used for a Levi's ad, and its re-release saw huge success in Europe and would become the only UK #1 for the only band that matters.
So you gotta let me know. Should I stay or should I go?
Although Should I Stay or Should I Go wasn't released a second time in the US, our next song was released twice. The first time in 1983, where it would peak at number 78, and when it was released in 1990, it would go up a whole great big 2 spots higher. Yet even with that lack of chart success, it is one of the most recognizable new wave love songs that would be co-opted into a commercial jingle.
I'll stop the world and stop with you. You've seen the difference, and it's great. I'll stop the world and stop with you.
Moving forwards, using all my breath.
The song has a bleak background. At the time it was written, the UK was in a recession, and as lead singer Robbie Gray said, there was no money, there'd be no power, you'd be at home with candles. Combined with the fear of nuclear war, the lyrics were inspired by the idea of a couple having sex while an atomic bomb dropped and their bodies liquidating together. Ew! But most people didn't take it literally, and it did manage some success on Billboard's mainstream rock chart, where it peaked at number 7 thanks to consistent airplay on MTV and being featured on the Valley Girl soundtrack. And, this is another case of downbeat lyrics with an upbeat tempo and arrangement, and contains one of the most hummed moments in music. Seriously, how can you not resist humming along to that? It's been remade by artists including Jason Mraz and Bowling for Soup. It's been featured in movies and commercials. It's a deceptively catchy tune that stays in your head long after you've heard it. Let's all take a little time to stop the world and melt with this.
I'll stop the world and melt with you. Let's stop the world. I'll stop the world and melt with you. Let's stop the world.
Now we come to grunge. Wait. Check, check, ow, ow, ow. People tend to forget there was a good number of female-led grunge acts such as Hole, L7, Veruca Salt, and The Breeders. Kim Deal was a member of the Pixies before they broke up, but The Breeders had been a side project of hers during her time with them. After the breakup, Kim added her twin sister Kelly to the group, even though Kelly didn't know how to play guitar but was a fast learner. Cannonball was the first release from the album Last Splash and would be their only Hot 100 hit, reaching number 2 on the alternative chart. For me, it's one of the defining songs of grunge and really one of my favorite 90s songs in all genres. The bass line is instantly memorable and all the guitar work is uniformly excellent. Kim's voice goes from cooing sensuality to distorted screaming, and the drums may be the most underrated section of the song. The song was chosen as the best song of the year by 3 different publications, NME, Melody Maker, and The Village Voice. And as for me, if I had done this as a top 10 favorite, this would be my number 1. I think most of this song still sounds fresh to this day considering it's 30 years old. Well, maybe not that part that sounds like AOL dial-up. Now we are at the last song on this list, and this is the one with the most sensitive subject, so if the discussion of suicide is triggering, please skip past this song. But since I've mentioned what the subject matter is, you probably know what song I'm talking about. And it's a little bizarre to realize that when you talk about the Seattle grunge scene with Nirvana, Soundgarden, and Alice in Chains, the lead singers of all those bands ended up dying at their own hands, whether it was accidental or intentional. So Pearl Jam's longevity and success has to be thanks to lead singer Eddie Vedder. Now, as an aside, he's only 5 days older than me. Their first 2 songs, Alive and Even Flow, never reached the Hot 100, but were successes on the rock and alternative charts, as was this. But even though Jeremy was on the same album, 10, it wasn't released as a single in the US until 1995, 2 years after the video for the song won the MTV Video of the Year award. Why the delay in releasing the song? I've tried finding information about that and I haven't been able to find anything. Now, the song is based on the real-life classroom suicide of Jeremy Wade Dell in 1991. I find there to be a similarity between this song and another classic song about suicide, Bobby Gentry's Ode to Billy Joe. In both cases, the song lyrics describe an outsider's reaction to the main character's death. The big difference being in the earlier song, the narrator is sympathetic and mournful of the loss, whereas the narrator in Jeremy has been his bully and is shocked but not saddened by his ultimate action. Now, sadly, because the video was edited to delete the image of Jeremy putting the gun in his mouth, instead it looks as though he's taken revenge on his bloodied classmates, and the song has been unfairly blamed as inspiration for mass shootings in classrooms. And even though the lyrics are raw, brutal, and unflinching, the music attached to it is rock mastery. The slow build to explosive climax is a classic signature that you would find in Stairway to Heaven, Dream On, Bohemian Rhapsody, among many others. Eddie's voice is strong and passionate, and the drums are relentless. Grabs you by the ears, by the gonads, and is an unforgettable message that tragically continues to resonate today. But I'm not going to end this list on a down note. Even though this is the last song on the list, there will be more. I didn't get to include classics from the Rolling Stones, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, AC/DC, REO Speedwagon, Journey, and so many others. And this is where you come in. I want you to leave in the comments your choices for classic rock songs you'd like me to include in future lists, and I want you to vote for other commenter choices, as the top vote getters will appear in part 2 to come at a later time. All I ask is that the songs that you choose all made the Hot 100 but without making the top 40, and that all the songs were released before the turn of the millennium. Shit, that makes me sound old. I would love to be able to get at least 1,500 subscribers, so if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel. Don't forget to click the like button and ring the bell for future notifications. I am Uncle Mark. Thank you for watching my video, and wait a minute, that's not on this list. That was a #1 song in the 1980s. what could I be working on for my next list? Stay tuned.